Well, put another loss on the board for WVU basketball as the Mountaineers drop their third straight game. This one another Big 12 game, and they lose this one to Kansas State 81-67. I'm Mike Asti, and this is our WVU basketball postgame show. A game the Mountaineers kind of had to win if they had any life. This was the one against the team that's not currently ranked in that opening stretch of Big 12 play, and they did have a lead at one point in this game. Doesn't matter. They squander it. We're now going to be joined by our Ethan Bock live at the Coliseum. Again, 81-67. The Mountaineers do drop another one to Kansas State. So, Ethan, I'm not going to ask a vibe check because obviously the vibes are just not good. There's no debate here. They're not good. The most optimistic Mountaineer fan is at this point agreeing the season is for nothing from here on out. And we've also been talking about, is there enough time for this team to gel? I think that's been answered, that they still need more time to gel. Edwards is going to need to be worked in and gel more, but it really doesn't matter right now. And there's not enough time left. So on this game, it looked like the Mountaineers were playing well. It looked like maybe they were going to win this game. This still would be a solid win. They desperately needed this victory. They were able to shoot. Yeah, so was Kansas State, but they were shooting so effectively, it wasn't ruining things. They had a lead, of course, after the first half, and then the wheels fell off a little bit. So is the story of this game that it was squandered by the Mountaineers? Like, what happened from first to second half to kind of ruin this result for West Virginia?
Yeah, West Virginia definitely squandered it. Going into halftime with a 2-point lead, had momentum going into the half as well.
Yeah.
And then just coming out of the half, K-State just went on a run and they ended up winning the second half by 16 points, and it wasn't even close. Somehow K-State turned it into just almost a blowout loss. So, and Kansas State dominated the paint on both sides. They were able to get into the paint with ease. West Virginia couldn't defend any passing lane. I feel like the bigs for WVU at least tried to guard inside the paint, but they just couldn't do much about it with Will McNair. So, yeah, a lot went wrong in the second half for West Virginia, and they had their chance, but they definitely squandered it.
Yeah, to say the least, to get 81-67, the Mountaineers lose to Kansas State, and as Ethan put it, it was 42-40 after one half of play. Maybe you're feeling good. Obviously, the season's still kind of, going nowhere, but maybe you're feeling good. It was desperation time for the Mountaineers to get a conference victory, and then Kansas State won the second half 41-25 for your final score of the big victory. Ethan Bock, Mike Asti. And just looking here through the box score, you hit the nail on the head in terms of not being able to handle Kansas State in the paint. That goes again to Edwards being out. Obviously could have used them in this game, but also a big difference rebounding-wise. Some of the recent games for West Virginia, even though they have a size issue, and when you don't have your main rebounder, other guys like Battle have to step up and do more. Maybe that's hard to ask of them when they're trying to run the offense. But this game, rebounding just wasn't close, 33-18. I mean, it just wasn't close. This was like worst case scenario rebounding-wise, certainly in the second half.
Yeah, I thought in the first half they hung around with K-State in the rebounding battle, but just by that second half, it seemed like Pat Suminick and Cook, Josiah Harris.
Yeah.
If those are your three go-to rebounders, you're not going to out-rebound any Big 12 team. Josh Eiler changed his starting lineup, took Quinn Szynski and Cook out, inserted Josiah Harris and Suminick, and whole point of that was to basically hang in with K-State and rebounding, and they did in the first half, but in the second half it was a different story.
Yeah, because you look at rebounding here, and Battle ends up being tied for second most rebounds on the team. So when it's supposed to be a Cook. It's supposed to be Harris. You don't have Edwards, but you're still having Battle. Kirk Risha ends up getting one. Like, your shooters are having to get boards, and they always should get a few, but they're right up there with the team lead, and you're losing by double digits in rebounding. You also lose offensive rebounds 9-4. Bob Huggins always said it, and Josh Eiler's from the school of Bob Huggins, and he has even said it literally this year. If we can't rebound, we can't win, no matter what else is going on. In this game, they couldn't rebound enough, and it seems like how are they ever going to be able to rebound in Big 12 play? They were even kind of an out-of-conference play when the record was still under 500 and they lost by games. Now you're in Big 12 play with ranked teams, Big 12 play with ranked teams, and you're getting destroyed rebounding-wise. You talked about the change of the starting lineup. What did Eilert say about that after the game? Do you expect that to be the lineup again, or was that just for this matchup? Is he now moving into a little bit of Bob Huggins territory? I'm going to switch this up every game until we figure one out, or what's the story about the lineup?
Yeah, he mentioned the rebounding with Harris and Sumanik, but just the main part was everybody knows Quinn Szynski's not hitting many shots right now. Seems like he's trailed off ever since Raekwon Battle and Noah Farrakhan and Kirk Risha came back. So kind of taking him, putting him on the bench as a six-man role, kind of easing his way back into things. And then Eiler added in that Pat Sumanik's been playing well over the last two games against Ohio State and Houston. So he earned his way into the starting five. And I'm pretty confident that's going to be a Bob Huggins thing. I feel like he's going to change the lineup based on matchups, and
I mean, why
at
not
least until Edwards comes back.
Yeah, because you're not married to a lineup. It's not like we talked about before that even though they were losing, the offense and the team looked like they were finally clicking a little bit. Certainly when Battle entered the game and debuted, it was 29 points, flirting with 30. Like that looked like, okay, you keep that lineup, but they're still not winning. Now they're in Big 12 play. It's going to be different ball. You need to rebound. You might as well change it up because you're not married to any lineup, and it's not like you want to ruin chemistry when Edwards comes back because you might as well have them all start again. You're talking about the depth, though, with Quinn going to the six-man role, which makes sense, although it's unfortunate because he almost was like the spark plug for this team before they got their guys back, and now it kind of has ruined him. Before I get to the rest of the bench, was that brought up at all? And what do you think can be done there, just off of your take then? I mean, this is he was the leading scorer for a portion of this season. It was forced upon him because the stars who were transfers that were added to be the best players in Battle and Kirk Risha were not able to be there. But it's a clear situation that almost anyone can figure out, that you add in more players who are going to take shots away, and he just cannot figure out where he now fits in with the team. And it's worst case scenario of that, as everything has been for this basketball program. But how do you save it even for him individually?
Yeah, first half of the season when West Virginia's playing slow, and really, I mean, Jesse Edwards was getting fed the ball, but your only facilitators were Kobe, Johnson, and Quinn.
Right.
So it was easy for Quinn to get a lot of shots in, get his points, and he was playing well too. And just once you, like I said, once you add in Battle, Farrakhan, Krisha, there's just three guys that need the ball. They don't even have Edwards back, and he's going to get fed the ball as well.
Yeah.
So where's Quinn's shot's going to even come from? He almost needs to turn into a catch and shoot guy, but he's not that type of guy. He needs the ball. He's a
1 for
forward,
4 from field goal wise, so he's not even taking nearly as many shots as he was. Like, for example, Battle's 5 for 13, Krisha's 4 for 10, Farrakhan 2 for 9, Kobe even 4 for 5, so 1 for 4. The shots aren't there for him. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's also timid and doesn't know when he can take a shot because maybe the plays aren't drawn up for him either.
I don't think there's going to be a time where Quinn's going to get his shots that he got back in November, early December.
Right.
It's just, it's a different, they play different. It's a different team build. You went from your best players being at the 4 and the 5 to now it's in the backcourt. So it's hard for Quinn to fit in. And I think them playing at a slow pace like they did at the beginning of the year was so much better for him.
Yeah, and we'll see, and maybe there will be more shots for him coming off the bench. That can be a very important role, but and maybe he'll embrace it like in this game, but it still feels like, or it looked like, he was still trying to figure things out even when he wasn't on the floor with them, because he is just a different pace, even if maybe more shots are there for him now. Going to the rest of the bench, though, and I don't even know if Eilert was asked about this, because I was asking about it when I was at the pressers a month ago, and it feels like death and taxes, and it's probably boring, and Eilert might throw something if you ask him at this point. But Wilson, 12 minutes, it's all a goose egg there. Is he going to shoot? Does Eilert want to do anything about him shooting? Is he scared to shoot? Is there now like a sports psychologist that needs to get involved? Is it just where the shots are not there for him, or is he still kind of timid and shying away from shots, which Eilert basically admitted about a month or so ago and said that he really needed him to get going to spark plug this team? That has not happened, and it has actually got worse. What's the story about Wilson? Yeah. Can he be saved? And not to say a coach is going to give up on a player, but what else can be done? It feels like it's almost a lost cause at this point.
I feel like now with the team that they have, Seth should have that similar role to where he had last year, where he's 7th, 8th, 9th man off the bench behind Eric Stevenson, Kedrian Johnson, kind of like that role. Like he's in a similar role now. He's not having to start, play 30 minutes.
Sure.
Like I could understand at the beginning of the year him being intimidated to shoot all the time. And he shot it a bunch the first week or two, but now he's almost intimidated to shoot at all. When he gets the ball last year, he would have created a move by doing a sidestep 3-pointer at the wing. But now he's just passing it off. So it's almost like he doesn't want to shoot. I don't know if that's the answer, but it just comes off as he doesn't even want to shoot the ball at this point.
2 assists. Could they have been shots for him? And I think one thing that you have to instill in him, and I'm sure the coaching staff and Josh Eilert do, because Eilert's kind of said this openly, it's not 30 minutes anymore. It's not going to be. You're not relied on to do as much shooting as even you were a month and a half ago, when the fact that you were shying away from shots was hurting the team. Now it's not as big of a deal in why we're losing games. For sure, that's not fair to put on him. And he is maybe better suited for the role of last year. Maybe he was miscast. Maybe that wasn't even fair to him. Maybe he's not that player. But I don't think you should have a line, not 0 points. I mean, that's one thing. 0 points can happen. Off the bench, 0 points can happen. Even for Hall of Famers can throw up a goose egg if they're only getting, a small amount of minutes late in their career. That can happen. But 12 minutes, so you're into double digits still, and not just 0 points, 0 field goals, 0 from 3 in terms of attempts, 0 from the charity stripe. It's all a goose egg, and then you have the 2 assists and 1 turnover. I'd almost be telling him you can't play 12 minutes and not take a shot. Like, I don't even care if it's a bad shot. We talked about this before, Eilert. He's not going to tell someone to take a bad shot. But I'd rather see an 0 for 2 than 0 for 0.
You want to know what the crazy part is? Over the last month, other than the Houston game, before the Houston game, the 3 previous games, he took 1 shot, had 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists. He played a combined 20 minutes.
So 1 shot in
Toledo
each
Ohio
game?
State.
So you're telling me it's 3 shots in 4 games?
No, 1 shot in 3 games.
Oh, in 3 games.
1 shot in 4 games.
I was going to say, I can't remember any. Yeah, so 1 shot in 4 games. Like, I don't know how many minutes that is off the top of my head, but there's 12 in this one. You got to find more shots than that. You got to find more shots than that. And I don't think that at that point, it's really the fault of the point guard or the fault of the team or even the coaching staff. I said it jokingly, but it does almost appear like he is scared to shoot. Again.
Yeah, it's almost like he doesn't want to shoot.
Maybe he doesn't even want to. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, maybe we're just, maybe we're getting into minutia here. Like, if you don't want to shoot, are you then also scared to shoot? Is that like, I mean, maybe you're not scared, but then why don't you want to if you're not scared? So it doesn't matter, I guess, but it's almost an extra annoyance, I'd imagine, for fans who are really looking close at these games. And I'd imagine it's an extra annoyance for this coaching staff. Obviously, this Mountaineer team has a tough stretch ahead, and they just finished a tough stretch. It's just going to be tough most of the year, except for actually the last few games of the season. But will it matter at that point will be a whole nother story, and probably not. Ethan Bock, Mike Asti here. The Mountaineers do lose to Kansas State. That's their 3rd straight loss. back-to-back in conference play to open up Big 12 play. Then it is number 25 Texas, who is still ranked. So this is still a ranked team, even though they've dropped. That's going to be on Saturday evening as well. Oklahoma to follow, and then Kansas to follow, which that's the program that even though West Virginia usually is competitive against the Jayhawks, that's the program that even in the best of years for Huggins in the Big 12, Kansas is always that team that's the older brother that you can't get over the hump, and you're close and you lose in controversial fashion, or maybe you do beat them, but then you lose the next one and cancels that out. This is the worst WVU team in 20 years, so we'll see what that's like. That one's at home, but it's against the number 3 Jayhawks, and then it gets a little easier after that for a while until you see some more ranked teams again. I could ask you what they have to do to beat any of these teams, but I mean, it's kind of obvious, and they're not doing it, and they got to change, and they got to be better, and I don't see how it's going to happen, and the Vegas spread's obviously going to favor all these teams over West Virginia. So kind of just to put the prediction hat on, where's the next win? How many wins do you see throughout not even just the rest of the season, but throughout the stretch that I named? Can they beat any of these teams? After that, it's UCF, Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, then BYU and Texas again. I'll add those in to give them maybe one win. Can there be a win? Can they get into double digits? We jokingly talked before the show here, before I hit live. Can they win more games in the football program if we're talking about the bowl game being included, and that's 9? Can they get to 9? It sounds crazy for West Virginia basketball, no matter drama or not, but I'm being serious.
Yeah, I think Texas on Saturday will be kind of similar to the night. I don't like Texas as much as I did last year.
You did like them a lot last year, by the way.
I did. They're made the Elite Eight, should have made the Final Four, but
right. Yeah.
This year they're a little bit different, and I don't like them as much as I did, but I think it'll be closer, or it'll be similar to tonight's game. I think Texas still wins though, but I think the next game that they have a chance to win is probably at UCF or at Oklahoma State. It's a road game.
Yeah, Texas Tech beat Texas.
So, they did beat Texas, but I can't see this team beating a ranked team right now. I can't see this team beating a Big 12 team right now. But I'll give it UCF or Oklahoma State because their talent alone should outweigh those teams at least, and they should have a good shot at winning those games. But I don't know at this point.
Yeah, I would definitely think UCF, but I mean not Cincinnati. I mean that's 3 straight against non-ranked teams. But
yeah.
And that one's at home as well. That one's at home as well, though. They are at home.
It is.
If that was in Cincinnati, I might say
that could be a sneaky one. Yeah, Cincinnati potentially. Cincinnati just beat BYU, and they were top 5 in the net.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, too, that we have to start saying, and I'm not going to accuse these players, obviously, of ever going to quit on a year, and they fought to even play, and that means literally for battle. But it's only natural if you get into that point, the end of January, and you've just been losing, and you still don't have any wins. Like, say they lose to UCF, it's hard to get up for the rest of these games, probably. Or even if they lose all these ranked games, and even the UCF game, like getting up for it, at that point, you're probably out of any tournament having a chance anyway. So, like, what are you playing for? So I'm glad they're playing and they want to play, but it's only natural to eventually take your foot off the gas a little bit in terms of how much effort you're putting in, because what is the point, might be said. But even for them individually, there are things they need to improve on, whether it's a WVU or elsewhere. And that goes again to the Wilson conversation and trying to get this team to be different. Was there anything else that's interesting from the post-game pressers? I know Battle spoke as well. He's been very optimistic about this team, even when they lost a game that he scored almost 30 points in his debut. These players are never vocally getting down on anybody. But what did he say? Anything else that was interesting from yet another loss for the Mountaineers? Got to be frustrating.
It's interesting. You would think, or at least I would expect Raekwon Battle to be a little bit more down. Yeah. I mean, you fought for months to get your waiver. Just probably being frustrated sitting on the sideline for a month and a half with some of your teammates too.
Yeah.
And just watching that team they couldn't do much else against even the bye games that they lost. There's just
Yeah.
nothing else those guys could do.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see. Like he is more optimistic than I would think he would be. Like he still says his team has a chance, and he's not going to go out there and say they don't have a chance.
Right.
But
Yeah.
just talking about how they need to gel, and they'll get Jesse Edwards back. And if they're playing their best basketball in March, that maybe something could happen.
I had somebody correct me
ready,
already
but,
and say, well, if they win the Big 12 tournament, then they automatically get in. Like, yes, that's true, literally, but
yeah, that was what Raycon was kind of talking about, just trying to catch fire at the right time going into March and then going into Kansas City. I mean, they're already talking about trying to win the Big 12 tournament, so that's just where we're at this point of the season. It's only been 2 Big 12 games, but maybe they can knock off Texas and keep it close with Oklahoma and Kansas, and then get Edwards back and you have momentum. But I don't see it unless they get hot by March going into Kansas City.
yeah, and obviously there's always a team that shocks the world and wins their conference tournament, sometimes even with a losing record, that then automatically gets in the NCAA tournament. This is not just pure opinion like in football. You do have that path to kind of scrap the season and then do it there, but it's not out of the Big 12. It's not, I mean, it's happened in some mid-major tournaments. We've even seen some upsets, even in the ACC. Teams win that nobody thought would win that, but not in the Big 12. This is a pure gauntlet. That would be really hard to believe. And because of the bye losses and what's happened so far, even if they would get to the final and lose or win a couple games there that are big upsets, it still would likely mean nothing unless they win the whole thing, because they're so far behind the 8 ball now. And you're in double-digit losses, and who knows when where the conference win is going to come.
There's an extra round this year in the Big 12 tournament. It's
Right.
no more. It's now ACC stouts or Old Big East stouts 4 days, or Old Big East is 5 days, but just that's
Old Big East was even more of a gauntlet, right?
Yeah. 4 days. West Virginia will probably be playing on that Tuesday, but now they have to play on Tuesday just to get the Wednesday, so it's just another added game. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge, and they could maybe make a run if they get enough wins to get into avoid that Tuesday game, but they have to win games first. It doesn't matter who the opponent is; they have to win. That's it.
And as they lose, the resume just keeps getting worse and worse too, because you look at teams that just mop the floor with them, like say Pitt, and then they have somebody else mop the floor with them on the same evening when West Virginia is losing. So like, I get it's hard to maybe evaluate the resume because these have been different rosters, but at some point, the committee, like the fans, like the players, are going to throw their hands up in the air and say, "This is just the end." Any word or anything? Obviously, this is not going to be said literally, but have you read any tea leaves or heard anything at all about any chance for this staff after this season? Because it feels like the wheels are falling off, and I do think the rest of the staff, I would like to see them stay. I think they're solid recruiters. They had to recruit 2 or 3 times this past offseason, and they ended up with solid players, even though they couldn't get together and the team's not looking that great. But it would be unbelievable to imagine that Eiler would be brought back unless Renbaker's bar was well below the tournament and not even in the NIT, which then you wonder what they're doing. So is there any hope there, or is this pure dead man walking from what you're hearing and feeling?
Yeah, I feel I've seen a lot of people say that the staff should be given a second year just based off all the circumstances they've had this past calendar year, and they definitely have had probably one of the most unluckiest runs in college basketball history.
Yeah, Kelvin Sampson said they were the most snake bit team he's ever seen in 25 years.
It really is.
Yeah,
it really is insane. Like coach, it's bad when every opposing coach talks about
everyone
how unlucky. Yeah, so they do deserve a fair shot, but I don't think they're going to get that second chance.
Yeah.
It's just so different in today's world of college athletics with the portal and NIL that they could hire if Ren Baker wanted to go get his own guy in the offseason, he could do that, and then they could win year one. Like K State
Yeah,
just
that's
did
the
this
thing.
with Jerome Tang. You can win year one. So, and with portal and NIL, so it's not all about rebuilding, retooling in college athletics. It's just not. That's really not too realistic anymore with retaining players and just trying to find that balance. So I think if it comes down to it, Ren Baker right now would, if the season ends today, go and find his own guy and pretty much start the program from scratch. That's just what I'm
Yeah,
feeling.
and yeah, it definitely feels that way, and you wouldn't fault him either. I mean, you want to put your own stamp on the program. He's done it on the women's basketball program. He's done it on volleyball. These are all way off the board. I mean, he's going to the Pacific Northwest to be hiring coaches. So Ren Baker's not an insider. He is a pure outsider. There's no connections at all. So his board is all over the place, and it's so far worked out with what he's done in the decisions he's made. We'll see about the basketball program. That's obviously the big one. He does retain Brown for the football program as they do turn it around. So we'll see. But I'm with you there. I think the people that are out there saying that this is going to be a 10 or 15 year journey, I just don't see it. This is not. I get that was the case for the older fans in the 90s before even Beeline and Huggins. That was the case, that you kind of ruined the history of Jerry West and all of them, and this would be literally a top 15 or top 10 program historically, not top 20 or top 25 if it wasn't for the late 80s and 90s being so god awful. But that's not going to really happen again unless you really have no money and can't recruit. Because as you're saying, with the transfer portal in this era, Ren Baker is young enough, modern enough. There is NIL money there. They've proven they can recruit constantly, even while losing. I would be shell shocked if that is the case. And if that is the case, Ren Baker is fired and his career is ruined too. So he is motivated to not have that be the case. So who knows who he will hire? He maybe throws money at May or somebody like that. There's a lot of names out there that people want, and maybe he can convince some of them to keep some of the assistants. I don't think anyone will fault him in terms of inside basketball if he does not retain Eiler. The only chance I could see is if somehow they make a run, and I could maybe see maybe like if he doesn't get May and he feels like he has to settle or something like that because he can't pay max Dahl depending on who else is there. Maybe a 1-year deal. I could, and I think that staff would take it. Like as you're talking about, maybe he would say 1-year deals, no one's long term, and it's literally like redoing this season. And if you suck, then we're not even going to talk. You know, you're gone. Maybe, I mean, that would be horrible job security for those guys, but maybe that would be an offer from Ren Baker and see what they
Yeah,
say. But that's like the best case scenario probably for them.
it just depends on which jobs are available this off season. I feel like West Virginia still has
Yeah.
just still has a prime position to be the first or second best job in the country
Out of the Big
come
12.
March.
That's a big deal, too. I
Yeah,
mean, Louisville's not in the Big 12 if you're talking about it, Louisville being open.
they've basically been the best job available since Hugs resigned at this point.
Yeah.
And
And unless
obviously things could happen with Louisville, so I'm
right,
sure
and
I'm
you have
sure
to
something will
also
come out of that.
and you also got to figure that when you're talking about a program like Louisville or major programs, Michigan's obviously been in turmoil, even though they won a football natty. That's not the case basketball wise. You could argue those programs being a better situation than West Virginia, but again, they're not in the Big 12. The Big 12 might be the best money wise. There could be a separate TV deal for just basketball that Mark's talked about. That all could be good for you. The program's proven you don't even have to win to get in the tournament. Like you don't have to. You can have 19
Yeah.
wins and say your strength of schedule is so brutal and you're losing by 2 or 3 in these games like Huggins did last year and still get in and then be a 9 seed or whatever and make a Final Four run. We've seen that happen with quality coaches. Again, May would be an example of doing that out of a mid-major. He could do that at West Virginia. So those could be possibilities. And yeah, I do think it'll be one of the better jobs. We'll see. But when you get major programs like that, I mean, Louisville could obviously go try to pluck somebody. They could take somebody from a job who then opens that job up.
Yeah.
We will see.
You could
But
have you could have just a chain of different things going on.
right.
Like even McCronin at UCLA is under some fire, and then if North Carolina kind of
Right.
fizzled out and just fell flat, didn't even make the tournament,
Yeah,
They're
now
also
you're
a
going
good
down the
squad.
pecking order. Now it's like West
Yeah,
Virginia's number 2. Now you're
yeah.
number 5. Yeah, I mean,
Then if Josh Eiler and his team end the
yeah.
year on a good note, then you have a different conversation if all these blue blood jobs are open. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to say the least. No matter what goes on, it's always interesting covering Mountaineer athletics. And now the basketball program looks to be the most interesting moving forward, whether that's for better or worse. Ethan Bock from WVSN. Mountaineers do lose at 81-67, third straight loss, another one in the Big 12. Where's the win? Close your eyes, throw a dart. Where's the win? Because that's basically the way to predict this. That's the luck that maybe will be there on when that win happens. Because right now, I don't see it.